Are you going to play the video first, or do you want me to call the meeting to order?
The meeting to order.
All right, if I'm calling this meeting to order at 8:30 a.m., we can have a roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Arnridge. Commissioner Fedeli.
Here.
Commissioner Nowak.
Here.
Vice Chair Saw.
Here.
And Chair Thorpe.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. I'm sorry.
I just let I just let Commissioner Arnridge in as well.
Okay, Commissioner Arnridge.
Morning, I'm here. Thank you for letting me in.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is this where we do the video?
Yeah, I can go ahead and get it started.
COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Okay, thank you. So from here, we'll move to public comments. Have we received any public comments?
No, we've received no public comments.
Any members of the audience?
I see no hands raised.
All right, thank you. We'll move to item 3, consent calendar. Are there any items that need to be pulled by commissioners?
I see no hands raised.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right, if
There's
I'm
two
sorry.
hands raised.
We've got two.
I just had a quick question on G1, G2. That's the San Ramon Iron Horse Trail overcrossing. You know, given this is really a design build under construction, just wondering, I couldn't quite figure out, there's $160,000 more for the design team, $200,000 more for project management. I couldn't figure out what exactly triggered that. Why is it at this point in time that that's necessary? What's changed or something, given where we're at in the process?
So yes, good morning, Commissioner Arnridge. This is Ivan Ramirez, so with the item related to the design, the 150,000 or so that goes to the designer of COWI, that's just as we go through construction, there's the normal interaction with the contractor. So there's the submittal review and the additional support to the construction management team, in this case MNS. So we always projected that we were going to need this money as we advanced into the construction phase. So we decided to wait up until this point to go ahead and ask for that amendment. It wasn't something that it wasn't envisioned. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does partially. I guess the part is because I've been involved in design build contracts. I don't get any change orders. unless the client made a change order to do something. So they were part of that. So how is it that they get a change that puts us back in the same position of it's not really design build, it's cost plus?
So that was in relation to the designer. That's in relation to the designer. In relation to the contractor, what is happening, we're asking for $200,000, but we're nowhere near that amount that we need right now. It's just an amount that is going to be there, so we don't continuously come to the board for additional money. But
Okay.
what triggers the change? The triggers the change is the city of San Ramon has asked for very specific changes in signs or changes in the
Traffic
actual,
management.
traffic yeah, it's primarily traffic and
Okay.
pedestrian signaling. So we're talking about this time in time, we're only talking about $2,500 or so that we need to pay the contractor, because those are owner-driven
Yeah,
changes.
no, if it's owner, that's great. That's the part I didn't get. So I have no questions. I'd be glad to move the whole consent calendar as presented.
I think Commissioner Noack had something as well.
No, it's Commissioner Fideli. I
Oh.
was just speaking up to say people had hands raised.
Thank you, Commissioner Fideli.
Thank you. I think it'll be a real quick question, but I just had a question on both item I and J that deal with the RFP for PPM services. A lot of our major construction projects are listed in there over the next 5 years. And I was just wondering, for my own purposes, once these are approved, how does this work internally with CCTA? Are these contractors at location? Just generally, how does that work as far as them assigning people that oversee our construction operations?
Okay, this is Ivan Ramirez again, Commissioner. So that's a very broad question. So the contract that you have in front of you, this is just for extended staff, right? Because being a CCTA representative, I don't have direct staff that I assign tasks to, right? How to deal with different issues in the field, contacting our stakeholders, our partners, helping me keep track of the budget, of the funding, of the changes, managing all the expectations out there in the field for safety and quality. So these are the people that help me manage that aspect of it. Specifically to each contract, what's going to happen is we're going to put an RFP out and solicit a construction management firm. And that's the firm that is actually going to be interacting with the contractor on a daily basis. So the list of projects that you see there are just projects that we're expecting, they're coming down the pipe, and we have no assigned consultant to directly manage those contracts. So all we're asking for here is for the extended staff to support me in delivering those projects. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, that whole firm will be several people assisting CCTA. Is that correct? It's not just one person dealing with all of this stuff.
No, yeah. Normally there's a lot of people that help me, right? I have a scheduler. I have to oversee the schedule and the cost controls and help me, like I said, manage the projects and with soliciting RFPs for CM firms, soliciting bids from the contractors. All that stuff is going to be any number of people or any number of specialty will help me. So it won't be like one or two people generally.
And pretty important deal moving forward as we look toward greater opportunities for CCTA, right? As far as new construction projects. So this system needs to work pretty well.
That's correct. That's correct. And in these projects, we just put them out there to make the proposers see the variety and the timing of the projects. Obviously, some of them are not complete yet, right? And we don't necessarily have all the funding. So it's going to be just a list for them to be aware of what might be coming that they need to bring expertise for, so that we can hopefully deliver those projects.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else? If
I'll
nothing else,
second the item.
okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Arnich, seconded by Commissioner Noack. Any public comments?
No, we've received no public comments.
All right, no public comments. Roll call vote, please.
Yes, Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fideli,
Aye.
Commissioner Noack,
Yes.
the Vice Chair Sauce,
Yes.
and Chair Thorpe.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Regular agenda items, item 4A, legislative update.
Hello, good morning, Chair Thorpe and Commissioners. I'm here to introduce Mark Watts, who is our state advocate, and he's here to do an update on state policy and our advocacy efforts. I'm going to turn it over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much. And Chair and members, thank you for having me today. This will be a brief update, but I've got some very important information to convey. First, probably the easiest thing to talk about is the little bit of a calendar update. Just want to make sure we all know where we're heading. January 3rd is when the legislature returns and reconvenes in session. The 10th is when the governor's budget is due to be released. The 19th is actually the 31st is the last day for the holdover two-year bills to clear each of their houses of origin. So we'll see a lot of frantic activity in the week leading up to the 31st. And then beyond that, the last day for bills to be introduced, should there be bills to pursue, is Friday, February 16th. So that's some of the calendar highlights that we're going to anticipate or we'll understand that are going to affect our future. Couple of different major items. First, I think you probably read about the blog post by the Ledge Analyst Office that was done earlier in the month, estimating a $26 billion shortfall for state revenues, and it had to do with the extension of the deadlines a couple of times by the federal government and the state for individuals and companies. Made some final tax payments for 2022 come in later, so it's harder to get their handle on where the revenue lies. This is important. I'll come back to why it is, but just to continue, the Ledge Analyst says that on a longer term basis over the next 3 years, it looks like revenue collections will actually be $58 billion below the estimates that have been the basis for the current year budget. And as I indicated, about half of this, or 26 billion, is attributable to the current year. And then on top of that, later, the Ledge Analysts will release their projected deficit. So it's not just, we've talked about the revenues, or I've just spoken about the revenue side in terms of revenues collections being below estimates. This will combine cost increases, other kinds of activities such as that, in contrast with the revenue, to come up with a workload and revenue deficit number that will be the final number that the governor and the legislature will have to work around. So it could be pretty grim. Due to several initiatives, transportation programs are fairly well protected from the experiences we had seen in the 80s and 90s where money was borrowed or redirected from transportation programs. So by and large, transportation revenues are well protected. Where we're a little bit vulnerable, and this is where we're going to have to take a very careful look and maybe all pull together with all the transportation agencies in the state, is the very gracious amounts of general fund money that was provided for the TIRCP program, ZEB programs, and other programs that touch on transportation programs or are wholly built into our transportation needs. Those would be in jeopardy because those were general fund discretionary allocations or appropriations made or commitments made to the next 2 years. They appear to me, who used to be a budget analyst for the Assembly, those general fund dollars appear to be low-hanging fruit, depending on how large the actual deficit is. So I notice out there that while we're well protected on the gas, sales tax, reg fees, all those different sources, we're not protected at all with respect to general fund allocations. The other thing I wish to convey to you is that the new leaders are starting to mobilize with new leadership. Back at the end of November, Speaker Rivas announced members of his leadership team and made a number of changes to chair positions. Of most important to us, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, but I'll reiterate it. Assemblymember Lori Wilson from Solano and East County is now the chair of the Transportation Committee, and there's great expectations that she will run that committee a little bit differently than the immediate past chair, balancing out transportation and mobility needs a little more strongly than the last chair did. That's about as far as I can go in estimating what's going to happen. In addition, this county is benefits from having a hometown person from East Bay, Assemblymember Wicks, as the new appropriations chair. As you know, appropriations is where bills go to die. And so having a friendly face to talk to if we have important bills will be very helpful. The budget committee, the longstanding chair Ting is no longer the chair. It's Jesse Gabriel from the San Fernando Valley, and we're looking forward to working with him. One interesting continuation was the budget subcommittee on transportation, resources, and climate retained Assemblymember Bennett as the chair. So the speaker continued with Mr. Bennett, and he has turned out to be someone I think that the agencies can work well with over the last year. The only change there is they changed the budget subcommittee number from 5 to 3 to 4. So now it's subcommittee 4. And that's all I really wanted to, well, no, there is one more piece of news. Earlier this week, it was announced jointly by Senator McGuire and Senator Atkins, the pro tem, that on February 5th, Senator McGuire will be formally elected to take over the pro tem position. And moving it forward from the end of spring to the end of winter or early February is important for his new role as the very difficult budget he'll be able to get his hands in it early on. In addition, in terms of assisting other senators and candidates, he'll have a longer string to do fundraising in. So from a politics and from a policy side, going earlier for him in this instance is going to be beneficial. The last two things I just want to mention, the Senator Wiener did conduct his Select Committee on Bay Area Public Transit. I don't see that there was a lot of development that came out of that other than a firm commitment to pursue the regional transportation revenue approach that we're waiting to see the language on. Actually, that is it. I'm sorry. Mr. Hale reminded me last night that I need to just briefly touch on AB6 and AB7 holdover bills by Chair Friedman. AB6 had been referred to Senate Trans but not scheduled yet. It's not been amended, and I've been talking to the committee staff. They've not seen amendments, although I do expect some. AB6 strengthens the oversight by CARB of the sustainable community strategies developed by regional entities. AB7 would have required CalSTA, State Transportation Commission, and Caltrans when they're considering allocations and awards of grants to really tie it closely as they can to CAPTI goals, CAPTI being the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure. So, and that bill is on Senate inactive, and it was intended to be amended, but we haven't seen the amendments there yet. So that completes my report for today.
Thank you,
Well,
Mark.
thank you. Okay.
Apologies, Chair. Go ahead.
Yeah, are there any questions?
Yes, sorry, Tim, I was going to
Oh, I
introduce
was just
you.
going to say, I wanted to add, Mark, thanks for the great report. I just wanted to add one piece is there's a lot happening here, you know, in the Bay Area relative to the regional transportation measure. So there are some meetings that are coming up, I think that are be important, and Mark and Lindy will be bringing our state advocacy platform to the committee in January. So I'm sure we'll be talking more about it in January, but just as a brief preview, there's a really important meeting tomorrow at MTC with the joint MTC ABAG Ledge Committee to talk about transit reforms and potential legislative framework for authorizing legislation for the regional transportation measure. And that will be, there's going to be some, that'll be actually going to the commission probably in January. So in December, the MTC commission will be briefed on the regional transportation measure, the framework. And then in January, there'll be a very important vote in terms of whether or not the commission, the MTC, will be supporting the authorizing legislation for the regional transportation measure in January. And that's important because bills are due at the end of January. So that'll be a very important decision at the MTC. And then we're off and running at that point in terms of what the regional transportation measure will look like. It'll be heading into the legislature. And it'll be a very interesting discussion given what's happening with the Senate Select Committee and other aspects of these transit reforms that we'll be learning about at the meeting tomorrow. So just so anyway, so I think just want to give a brief preview of that. And like I said, that we'll keep the committee briefed on what's happening as those things evolve. And like I said, we'll probably talk more about that on our state advocacy platform in January. The other thing I wanted to mention, just because we did take an opposed position to AB 316 as well as the governor vetoed that bill, but we are hearing that driver in bill might potentially be coming back in the next legislative cycle. And then we're also hearing that there'll be a potential AV autonomous vehicle light duty bill potentially coming out next year as well. So and that I have no doubt that has to do or have to address what's happening in San Francisco with Cruise. So so those are all the things. I'm sure I'll allow Commissioner Nowak fill in any gaps that I may have left out, our MTC commissioner, but I just want to just give everyone a quick brief update at kind of where we're at with the regional transportation vision.
Yeah, I'll just follow up on that. I expect tomorrow's meeting to be fairly lengthy. There's been a lot of push by MTC commissioners with a potential measure in 2026 to really identify the transformational needs that we think the public is looking for in order to get a measure passed, but also address sort of the sustainable needs for a lot of our transit operators in one form or fashion. So there's been a lot of push from the MTC commissioners on what that means, what we really need to do, what kind of transformational language needs to be in there, what type of authority MTC will need, that will all be in that legislation. So it should be an interesting meeting tomorrow and fairly lengthy, my bet is.
Yeah, and maybe just to add, this is just the authorizing legislation. That's all this is. This is not the expenditure plan. This is not any of that. I just want to make sure everyone's really clear on this. This is just the same type of bill that CCTA would take to get authorizing to get, put a 0.5-cent sales tax on the measure if we wanted to do that. But, so this is just authorizing legislation in order to put something on the ballot, and there'll be more to come. And me and Lindy are actually part of a regional transportation measure working group. So there'll be definitely more to come in 2024 relative to how the expenditure plan is built and the framework and where the money is going to flow and what the actual revenue mechanism is going to be, et cetera. So more to come.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, it's not necessarily going to be a sales tax measure. They've looked at, a variety of measures, and I expect whatever legislation that we request is going to be fairly broad to give some flexibility on revenue types and also what types of authority MTC has in distributing those funds and using those funds. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think those were all the hand raised. Lindy, did you want to go to federal?
Yes, thank you, Chair Thorpe. I'm excited to introduce Gus Maples, who is here to provide us a federal legislative and advocacy update. Gus, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, good morning. Good to see everyone. I'll start out with a quick recap on where things stand with the federal legislative calendar about to wrap up here for the end of the year. The federal government is, of course, on a continuing resolution again through the holidays. It will be running for many agencies through February 2nd. Transportation and HUD subcommittee bills are only funded through January the 19th. That was one of the priorities of new Speaker Mike Johnson from Louisiana, to split up the traditional continuing resolution of having everything all together as a bit of a negotiating tactic. And my personal insight is that I just hope the February 2nd date doesn't wind up in some sort of Groundhog Day scenario where we're dealing with the first half of that again. Of course, this means all the DOT programs are still on basically autopilot funding from current year levels. That includes your CMAQ highway funding, as well as transit capital improvement grants and community development block programs and the like, until a new spending deal can be reached. I've just recently talked to some of the appropriators who are ready to negotiate. They have the staff have done a lot of their ground level work to prepare for that. Once the principals can agree to a top line spending number for the overall government functions. Congress is expecting to consider the annual defense policy bill likely before breaking for the end of the year. They're currently scheduled to still be in session next week. One big ticket item on the docket is, of course, funding for continuing Ukraine operations, as well as assistance in the Middle East. And the Republicans are very insistent on making sure that there is some reform to border policy and funding as a bit of a trade-off to continue those international efforts there. We'll see what gets done here. And then, of course, Congress will be back in session January 8th. Looking ahead to that front, we've been working with the staff, and Lindy, glad to have her on the team now, about our 2024 priorities and strategy for DC engagement to be ahead of the curve on the upcoming legislative session here in town and grant opportunities at the department. And speaking of grants, that does lead me to my next point. For federal grants, just for awareness, for example, the RAISE grant program, formerly commonly known as Tiger grants or Build grants, are on the street right now, open for application into February. And then we expect the department will be announcing recipients for that in the summertime to get those out the door before really heavy campaign season kicks off in the fall next year, before the 2024 elections. That's where things stand currently. Happy to take any questions if I missed anything as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
I see no hands raised.
Okie dokie. Are there any public comments?
We've received no public comments.
Okay, no public comments. So we will move on to the next item. Thank you, Gus and Mark, for your presentations. Item 4B is Interstate 80, San Pablo Dam Road Interchange Project.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, committee members. My name is Hisham Noemi. I'm the Director of Programming at CCTA. Happy to present this item. Staff is seeking authorization for the chair to execute amendment number 10 to agreement 316 with the AECOM in the amount of $4,797,013 for a new total agreement value of $11,543,013. The amendment will allow AECOM to provide additional design and right-of-way services for the I-80 San Pablo Dam Road interchange improvements, Phase 2. We are also asking that you allow the executive director or designee to make non-substantive changes to the language. This amendment will also extend the agreement termination date from December 31st, 2023 to December 31st, 2026. With Phase 1 constructed and closed out in 2018, we have been working hard since then to identify funding for Phase 2. As you recall, back in June of this year, the authority was awarded $19.7 million in SB1 Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, or TSIP grant. This will allow us to complete the design and the right-of-way phases for the project. The funding, the TSIP funding, is complemented by matching funds of $3.8 million in State Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP funds, and $500,000 from West County's Measure J Program 28 funds. Subsequently, 2 months ago in October, the CTC approved the allocation of the TSIP funds as well as the STIP funds for the project. In addition, the board approved cooperative agreement number 97.70.03 with Caltrans, allowing the reimbursement of the TSIP and STIP funds. Like with many state funds, the TSIP and STIP funds come with strict deadlines. We need to get the project shovel-ready by June 30th, 2025, as we promised in our grant application. Amendment number 10 with AECOM will allow us to move quickly in getting the design phase restarted. We will work closely with Caltrans to ensure that we pick up where we left off and minimize any rework of approved technical studies of the project. Before I finish, I want to say, as part of the design phase, we will implement the authority-adopted quality assurance program. As required, the project team will develop a quality management plan, a project risk register, conduct independent design workshops, and check for interdisciplinary design conflicts. We will also complete independent cost estimate, conduct constructability and biddability review, quality control reviews, and value analysis. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any comments, questions from commissioners?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, are there any public comments related to this matter?
We've received no public comments.
All right, is there a
I would like to
motion?
move this. I would like to move this item.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Fedeli
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Sauce. If there's no further discussion, if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Sorry, I was on mute. Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fedeli,
Aye.
Commissioner Noack,
Yes?
Vice Chair Sauce,
Yes.
and Chair Thorpe.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes unanimously.
All right, item 4C.
That would be
Would-
me as well, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
I will keep it short. Staff is seeking authorization for the chair to execute cooperative agreement 07W08 for the I-80 San Pablo Dam Road interchange improvements Phase 2. We're asking that you allow the executive director or designee to make non-substantive changes to the language. In June 2006, the authority entered into cooperative agreement number 07W01 with the city of San Pablo for the implementation of I-80 San Pablo Dam Road Phase 1. The cooperative agreement was amended multiple times over the years as the project details were developed. A new cooperative agreement is needed now to outline the roles and responsibilities of each agency with the implementation of Phase 2. Under the cooperative agreement, both agencies will work together to secure additional funding for potential cost increases, review deliverables, facilitate utility relocations, and other tasks to ensure the project is delivered successfully. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
all right, thank you. Any comments, questions?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, any public comment?
We've received no public comment.
Okay, is there a motion?
I will also move this.
Second.
All right, there's a motion by Commissioner Fideli, seconded by Commissioner Arnich. If there's no further discussion, if we can have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fideli,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sauce,
Yes.
Chair Thorpe.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, item 4D, Route 4 McCallum Bike Trail Pedestrian Overcrossing Project.
Is it item C or D? I'm sorry.
D,
D.
Oh,
4D. D
Sure.
as in dog.
Chair Thorpe, we skipped over C.
C.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry.
No,
4C, Interstate 680 State Route 4 interchange improvements.
Okay, good morning, commissioners. Ivan Ramirez. I'm the Director of Construction, and this is an action item where we're going to be asking you to move forward an authorization to execute amendment number 4 to agreement number 503 and task order 1A with WMH Corporation for environmental and final design services. This is I made a couple of presentations regarding this project where currently we are advancing the design of phases 1, 2A, and 4 at the interchange of State Route 4 and the Interstate 680. And currently the design has advanced to the 95% phase. The PS&E has advanced to the 95% stage. And along the way, we have had to do additional work, and we also have asked the designer to undertake additional efforts. So therefore, we are requiring an amendment. Some of the issues that have come up is that we require additional potholing to make sure that we identified more of the utilities. As you may be aware, identifying the utilities is very critical to hopefully avoiding delays during construction. So we're putting additional effort to do that. We also have additional right-of-way services that we have to perform. We have to acquire some land and also acquire some temporary construction easements. There has also been a number of reports that have been part of the design that Caltrans has requested us to renovate or to make new ones or new scope. So that also has increased the cost. And lastly, the authority is very keen in avoiding construction problems when we put the construction projects out. There have been a number of issues that have happened over the last project. So we asked the designer to bring modeling, a building model, so that we capture the 3D model, and it will capture a lot of errors. And in fact, we already have advanced the model where we know that we have identified issues that the model revealed to us, and we're going to avoid those issues. But putting this BIM model, it's expensive, but we think it's very worth the money that we're going to spend on that. So for that, we're asking you to move to the full board this amendment, where we're asking authorization for the chair to execute amendment number 4 to agreement 503 and task order 1A with WMH in the amount of $3 million for a new total agreement value of $26,155,044 to provide additional environmental validation, final design, and bid support services, and to allow the executive director or designee to make any substantive changes to the language. And with that, I am open to any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions, comments?
Yes,
Yes.
we have
Commissioner
Commissioner Arnrich.
Yeah, Ivan, thank you for that. This is exciting. The project's moving forward, and I apologize if I didn't listen carefully enough. What's the timeline? Do you think that will kind of get to 100%, and where are we at with the overall funding and everything? And are we on track for all of those things?
Yeah, those are good questions, Commissioner. So right now, we're going to be finishing the actual design by June of next year, right? So that's just the paper, but in addition, after we complete that, we have a couple of tasks that we have to complete before we're ready put it to construction on the non-funding side, right? One would be we have to get the right-of-way acquisitions and the construction easement. That's going to take us beyond when the BSN is ready. And additionally, we're going to have some environmental permits that we have to secure because, we have Grayson Creek and Walnut Creek that we're going to be working near. So those two things are currently on the critical path, and they're going to happen after we finish the design. But the bigger question is, where do we get the money, right? I think last time I came in front of you, we were expecting a shortfall of like $200 million or so. So we're working very hard. In fact, we have a team meeting with the executive director and the projects team and AMG to see if we can apply for $25 million grant with the federal government that's currently for FOMO right now. But that's not going to get us nearly enough. So one of the other things that we're contemplating as a team is we're seeing if we can break the project into segments, just because might as well get something out there and get it built with the current money. Inflation at this point is killing construction contracts. I'm sure you read it all over the news. So we're going to try to see if we can break that would be the connector ramp going from southbound 680 to eastbound 4. And the reason is because that ramp doesn't have the right-of-way and environmental constraints that the other segments have. So we're looking at all these options, right? Getting more money and seeing how we can break the project down so that we can at least advance some of the work. But funding continues to be a challenge. But we're working hard to see if we can advance it, get more grants for it.
Great, thank you. That's a great update. And the concept of being shovel ready is also what helps us on all the grants. So good investment, and thanks for the update.
Yeah, and maybe if I could just quickly add on the funding piece. So in 2024, as part of our state and federal advocacy platform, we're our two highest priority projects for funding are going to be 684, as well as the northbound express lanes project on 680. And so there's SB1 funding opportunities that are coming up next year, both trade corridor enhancement program and as well as solutions and congested corridors. So we are, really working strategically with MTC and Caltrans to prioritize those in the region. And then also on the federal level, we're continuing to look at MEGA for northbound express lanes. And then Ivan already mentioned the 25 million for RAISE, but also we're going to be looking at infra for 684 as well. So we've identified very strategic programs for next year that we're going to be advocating for and positioning ourselves for next year.
All right,
to help
thank
close
you.
that $200 million gap.
Excellent. Any other comments? Seeing none, are there any public
We
comments?
have
No,
Sue
we have
Nowak and
Lamar.
Renata.
Lamar, you've got
Oh,
other
Lamar
hands up. So
Oh, I don't-
I'll
the raised
since
hand
I'm
feature.
Since we're
I'll go.
interchangeable, Sue, why don't you go
Yeah.
first?
Thank you. Thank you.
Good point. I just want clarification on what environmental revalidation means. It's mentioned quite a few times in here, costs, and that's something I've not heard of before, and I want to get a better understanding of what's needed there and why it's sort of a revalidation.
So yes, Commissioner, one of the things that trigger this revalidation is the traffic at the time when the original revalidation was done way back. I think it was like the late 2000s. So when there were certain assumptions made about the amount of traffic that was going through the intersection. Obviously, that has changed, right? And there might be new criteria with VMT. So all those things need to be looked at, and that will trigger Caltrans telling us, well, and actually sometimes the federal government might tell us that that's been there too long, so we need to update it with the current information that we have that might be available.
And does that mean potential design changes as well as a result of that?
Potentially, yes.
Thanks.
Commissioner Sauce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sue asked part of the question I was going to ask. So this is just due to the age of the original analysis. Is that right, Ivan?
You're on mute.
I'll take that as a
Yeah,
yes.
I know.
Thank you.
For whatever reason, my mouse wasn't getting there. Yes, that's correct. That's part of the reason is the original environmental document is all with all information and now it needs to be updated with current information.
And how much of the 3 million is attributable to that?
I am going to have to get back to you with that because I'm not I don't have that number right in front of me right now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Going once, going twice? Okay. Public comment?
We've received no public comment.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to move this item?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
There is a motion by Commissioner Arnich, seconded by Commissioner Nowak. No further discussion, please, not please, roll call vote.
Yes, Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fideli,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sauce,
Yes.
Chair Thorpe.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Item 4D, State Route 4 McCallum Bike Trail presentation, pedestrian overcrossing project.
Yes, again, Ivan Ramirez, Director of Construction, and this is going to be a series of action items related to the project State Route 4 McCallum Bike Pedestrian Overcrossing. And I have a small presentation that hopefully I can share with you so I can give you sort of an idea or at least a visual as to what is triggering these action items. So give me just a second, please. Yeah, I am sure. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, it's not in full screen mode.
Yeah. Let me see if I can fix that. Okay, I'm gonna have to reshare my screen. Okay, give me. Oh, I won't be able to do that. Hold on 1 second, please.
I think we can all still see it, Ivan. It's just not on full.
Is it on full screen now or no?
It's not. So
Oh,
if you want to continue, that's fine because it's still we can still see it.
Let me just try one more thing and then how about now?
No
No?
change.
Okay,
You
I'm
could
sorry.
You could go to slideshow and just start from the beginning because you're not in that mode. But
Okay, let me see that. I apologize. These things are, you all know it can be tricky here. Is that better or not?
perfect.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you. So, okay, here we go. So, this is an aerial view of the bridge as we're building it. And we are more advanced than this, but it will give you a good indication of where we are. I came to the board, I think it was around June, because we had encountered a number of issues, but one of the issues that had the most impact at the time was that here at frame 2, where you see in purple there in frame 1, the deck grades, right? That's like almost like the last work that the construction management firm needs to check prior to pouring the deck and get into the final grade. So everything is is as it was designed. An error was encountered, a significant error where those grades didn't match what we were building in the field. So the designer acknowledged at that time that that was an oversight on their part, and we had to stop the work because that's, you know, again, we're prior to building the deck, and we had to work with the contractor to stop the work and have to regrade the false work to support underneath prior to pouring the deck. And during that time, there were other issues going on with the way it was built, that the form ended up moving. It took it out of alignment. We had to work to realigning and everything. So that caused a significant impact at the time. And that's why I came back to you. And I remember that it was like a $1.5 million change that I requested. But so we continue to move forward, put that behind us. And when we see frame 3 there in orange, then I also told you that that's going to be a challenge to build. Well, it also ended up being that we had an additional design error there. So that lower figure on the left there, where you can see bent 7 and quarter span, half span, 3/4 span, and bent 8 and so forth. Those numbers that are shown there as a slope, those numbers were actually calculated wrong by the designer. Those are very esoteric calculations. I wouldn't be able to tell you how they get to that point, but bottom line is that the designer had to cut them in half to make the bridge work. But in addition to that, the slopes related to meeting the American with Disability Acts, those slopes also weren't compliant, even if we had been able to build that slope with the correct the figures there in red, which we call the camber. These are called camber. So what ended up happening is that, you know, through a series of events, we had to, again, work with the contractor. We had to stop them. We had to find a solution working with Caltrans. Caltrans, they are going to take over the maintenance of this deck. So they were very particular about the kind of fix that it was going to be put in place. So that kind of delayed us a little bit because we were debating was going to be concrete or it was going to be or regular concrete, or it was going to be polyester concrete. And this is what we ended up doing here with the contractor had to come and think about shaving a large portion of the deck, getting it to a minimum or maximum depth, I should say, and then filling it back with concrete. And the reason why we ended up using polyester concrete over regular concrete is because of long-term maintenance issues. If we would have used regular concrete, then water was gonna easier slip in there and start causing damage, causing the concrete to slab and the rebar to expand and so forth. So so this is caused significant impact to the work. And in addition to that, like I said, the contractor has been stopped, right? Think about it. We will basically be done. All that shoring that you see underneath the bridge, all of that will be done. The embankment, the final slope will be done. The curb and the railing will be in place. But that has to stay there now. And it's been there now for weeks now. And we project it to be there at least through maybe the beginning of February. So those are all additional costs that the contractor is incurring. And as a consequence of that, the contingency has been depleted. So in order for me to continue to move this project forward, we're asking the board to approve a revision to the allotment, which will increase the construction allotment by $131,987 for a new total construction allotment of $10,334,257,000. And so I'm open for any questions. Let me go and stay.
Ivan?
Yes.
Sorry, if I could. Thank you for the presentation. You know, this sounds great. Actually, I like that material they're putting on the top. It's actually a great surface to walk and ride on. Is there anything else that's pending or unresolved or anticipated on this project? You know, as we know, sometimes things are submitted and we still keep negotiating for a while and they don't show up to the end. Is there anything else on this project at this point in time, just to get a sense of what it looks like to get towards the end of this?
Yeah, there are that's an excellent question. There are two items that we're aware of. The first one is actually a minor item. As the contractor completes the final slopes and the final profile of that bridge, they're gonna have to make changes to the railing to match that slope. And they were already fabricated, so they have to wait until those slopes are done. They're gonna come measure them, and they're gonna bend them so that hopefully we can bend them and put them in place with the correct slope and height relative to the deck. So that's number one. But the bigger item here is that, you know, we were able to get the direct cost with the contractor to get this done, but, you know, the time deferred cost, like, I don't know how long that, for instance, that force work is going to be in place, right? It could be 2 more weeks, it could be 4 more weeks, depending on weather and how fast we can advance the work. So that's what we call time-related costs. So the time-related costs at this point haven't been resolved, they're open, but I wanted to get an agreement on the direct cost so we can, the contractor motivated to finish the work, that the actual physical work.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
All right.
Lamar, I'll jump in. I don't know if you
Yes.
can see hands or not. So thanks, Ivan. There seems to be quite a few errors, and I hate to ask this question, but how come? There seems to have been a lot of, you know, I haven't seen that many errors in a project lately. So I'm just trying to figure out, you know, there's a lot of costs being added because of mistakes, and I'm just trying to understand how those occurred. And
Yeah,
could they been, some of them could that have been prevented, and yeah, where the process went a little wrong there.
yes,
Minor
Commissioner. So I think the errors are difficult for us because of the nature of them and the impact that it has on the project. As this is a small project with just one bridge, so the moment you have to stop, then there's no other way you can go to do work. Normally when you have significant errors, then the contractor can jump to other locations and keep advancing some of the work. But here it's like there's nowhere else to go. So the impacts are very significant. As it relates to the errors during construction, those for the construction management team, those are very difficult to capture because, again, those calculations to get to the final grade and get to the camber, those are esoteric calculations that nobody in CM would know how to make them. Those are entirely up to the designer. They only hand them to us and we build them. So the question becomes, okay, what went wrong during the design phase? And I think that it's very important to note here that the designer has acknowledged that these were his errors and his alone, and he understands the consequence of what has happened. Which, by the way, you know, a lot of times that's not the case where the designers will step up and take ownership of them. So they have, and you know, we have kept them informed of the decisions that we're making, why we're making them, because you know, this has the potential for us to initiate a conversation with them about probably compensating the authority for all these things, and maybe the executive director would like to comment on that. But where we have, it's just where the work was at the time that the impact was known is what's really been difficult here, more than the errors themselves.
Yeah, and I guess my question really went to sort of to the design errors that seem to have been the case, and I'm assuming at some point we'll pursue their E&O or, you know, whatever, to compensate us for some of the additional costs here.
Yeah, that's correct, Commissioner Nowak, and Director Ramirez and I have been talking about this in terms of keeping a good track of, you know, what we feel like they're responsible for, and we are preparing there's been informal communication with the designer as Director Ramirez has been talking about, and they've taken complete ownership. They've notified their E&O insurance, and so we are in communication with the designer on this and in terms of the scale. And we are, because now that we're getting closer to the end of construction, you know, now we have a good assessment, I think, of where this is going. And we're getting ready to prepare a formal notice to the designer that will start that process. And we do expect that there be some level of compensation back to the authority based on some of these design errors. And the design errors we're planning on capturing are obviously the significant ones. I mean, all projects have issues, all projects have errors, right? I mean, there's always minor errors here and there, but we're specifically focused on, you know, 2 or 3 significant errors that caused significant cost to the authority and to the project.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion? Oh, public comment.
Receive no public comment.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move the item.
Okay,
Second.
all right, there's a motion by Commissioner Sauce, seconded by Commissioner Arnich. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fideli,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes,
Vice Chair Sauce,
Yes,
Chair Thorpe.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you for that. Next, we have correspondence and communications.
I
think we have D3.
We have,
Yeah, I think
you
he's got
gotta
two
do,
more.
Oh, we
Yeah,
gotta
you
do
got
it 1, 2,
D2 and
3. 1,
D3.
2, 1, 2, 3. Yes. So is there a motion for our second item here under D4?
So commissioners, very briefly, we talked about the direct cost that we have to pay the contractor to get this work done. And that we have come to an agreement for an amount of $462,477.40. And we're gonna compensate through change order number 24. Again, there's a couple of items missing there, one being the railing and second being the time-related cost, but we're seeking authorization for you to approve the change order.
Got it. Questions, comments?
yeah, Mr. Chair, I do, it's Renata. So making the deck grades compliant with the ADA, is that again a design issue that it wasn't originally?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's part and parcel of what we talked about just on the prior item of our documenting the design issues to be able to later get some compensation for that.
Yeah, that's correct. I needed to bring some money into the contract to be able to pay change order 24. I didn't have enough, so you allow me to do that, and now I have money to pay change order 24.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none. Are there any public comments to this matter?
no, we've received no public comments.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion by Commissioner Arnich. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Commissioner Sauce. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fideli,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak,
yes,
Vice Chair Sauce,
yes,
and Chair Thorpe.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, item 3.
Yeah, once again, commissioners, this is actually an action item where we're asking you to approve an allocation request for to MTC for an additional $1 million to get the project completed. We have money in RN3. They have already allocated $13 million that has been basically exhausted. So in order for us to finish the project, we need to bring additional money. Now, I do want to say that I don't expect that the $1 million will be spent at this point. But when I first started working on the staff report and the financial plan and so forth, we weren't really sure how much money it was going to be. But so I feel comfortable that we're not going to use the full 1 million, but nonetheless, that's where the request is right now. So so stack 6 approval of resolution 2349P, which will authorize submittal on allocation request to the Metropolitan Transportation Commission for an additional amount of $1 million for construction services. And with that, I am open to any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments for Ivan?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, any public comment?
We've received no public comment.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Oh, second.
Nobody likes spending.
There's a motion
I was
by,
trying, I was
uh,
trying to help you out there, Newell. I jumped in, but you went too fast.
Yeah.
I had to get up
There's
myself
a-
off mute.
Yeah.
There's a motion by Commissioner Arnott, seconded by Commissioner Noack. There's no further comments or questions. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Arnrich,
Aye.
Commissioner Fideli,
Aye.
Commissioner Noack,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sauce,
Yes.
and Chair Thorpe.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Correspondence, communications. Don't think we have any. Commissioner, staff comments, chairs comment. I have no comments. Commissioner comments or reports. All right, executive staff comments.
Yeah, I just have one comment. Thank you, Chair Thorpe. Just as a friendly reminder, that we will begin holding APC in person starting in January. At the authority offices. So just want a friendly reminder, we will be taking an item to the board and directly to the board in December relative to our meeting conduct, but I'm anticipating that we will be going back to in-person meetings starting in January for all of our committees and authority board meetings, given the fact that 361 expires at the end of the year.
All right, thank you for that update. There's no other business. We will adjourn, and our next regular meeting will be January 4th, 2024. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.